Dear students of first BSc Chemistry, I welcome you all for this class in Communicative English. Today, we shall begin this class with a powerful leader of America, United States of America, namely Martin Luther King Jr. The JR stands for Junior. You must know it is a systematic way of naming the Europeans and Americans, Western people. Junior means his father name is also the same. Martin Luther King Senior means it is the father of Martin Luther King Jr. We are talking about the Junior, the son of Martin Luther King Jr. Similarly, we have a American president also, George Bush Senior. He was also an American president. George Bush Jr. He was also an American president. So George Bush Jr. It was he who attacked Iraq and killed Saddam Hussein. You may remember. if you recall the history of Western Asia. Martin Luther King Jr., he was a Christian minister. That means a man who is giving religious speeches, religious lectures, that too in Christianity. Such people are called as Christian ministers in the United States of America. Apart from these, Martin Luther King Jr., as a Christian minister, he was also an activist. He was also an activist who became the most visible spokesperson and a leader in the civil rights movement from 1955. See, Martin Luther King Jr., he was a leader in the civil rights movement. Civil rights movement means it is a movement which is fighting for the rights of the people. We all know that. Even now, recently we saw a news item. A black man in America was attacked or assaulted by police, and in that attack the black man died. You may remember his name. And the attack was called as racism. So there was a lot of trouble in United States, and United States was facing an election. So it was a negative point for our former President of United States of America, namely Donald Trump. So in the 19th century, in America, slavery was practiced. Black people from African countries, black African Americans, they were treated as slaves. So several leaders fought for the freedom of the American black people. Abraham Lincoln, he was a leader. So several leaders I can quote. And when the slavery system was abolished in America, even after that, the slavery system was indirectly followed. Discrimination was faced by the Negro people then and there. So, several leaders have to fight for the rights of the Negro people or the black people in the United States of America in the 19th century. And Martin Luther King Jr., he was also a civil rights movement activist. He participated in various struggles for the freedom and recognition of the black American people from the year 1955. Do you know what happened to the leader Martin Luther King Jr.? He was assassinated in 1968. Just like our father of the nation, namely Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., he was also assassinated. See, Martin Luther King Jr., he was known for advancing his civil rights. He fought for the civil rights of the American people, especially the Negro, black American people, without participating or without any involvement in non-violence. And he fought through civil disobedience. The inspiration is his Christian beliefs and our father of the nation, namely Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi also participated in civil disobedience movements. And as a result of this, we got the freedom in 1947 from the Britishers. So Mahatma Gandhi was a non-violent activist. He practiced ahimsa. Mahatma Gandhi practiced ahimsa. So our father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, was a role model for many leaders. He was an inspiration for many leaders. Martin Luther King Jr., he was also an inspiration. He was also inspired by Mahatma Gandhi, and he followed the civil disobedience and non-violence in United States of America for the liberation, for the recognition of the black American people. So, Martin Luther King, he participated and also he led several marches for the black people, Negro people's right to vote. They were not given the voting rights. So because of the struggles of Martin Luther King, the American black Negroes were given the rights to vote in elections. So he has to fight for the vote, desegregation, labor rights, and other basic civil rights. So, Martin Luther King was the president of Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and through this, he organized several struggles in support of the black Americans or Negroes in United States of America. This leader, namely Martin Luther King Jr., he organized a non-violent movement in 1963. He organized various non-violence movements in Birmingham, Alabama. These are some of the major states of United States of America. United States of America means several states are united, just like our India. In our country, India, several states are united. We have Tamil Nadu, Andhra, Telangana, Bihar, Odisha, Karnataka, Kerala. So all these states are united in India, just like that. In USA also, several states are united. Birmingham and Alabama, these are some of the states in United States of America. We have Pennsylvania, Alaska. These are all some of the states of United States of America. So Martin Luther King, he organized various struggles with the people in Birmingham and Alabama. And Birmingham and Alabama, these are some of the states. So he organized various struggles in 1963, and he also organized a march on Washington. In the March on Washington, it was a struggle for the jobs and freedom of black Negroes in United States of America. The March on Washington is also called as the Great March on Washington. So this was held in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. Washington was a city developed after the American leader, American President George Washington. So Washington, D.C. was a city in United States of America. Martin Luther King organized a big rally on August 28, 1963. It was a Wednesday. So the purpose of the rally or the march was to advocate for the civil and economic rights of the black Americans or Afro-Americans. Birmingham is a city in the north central region of US state of Alabama. So Birmingham is the capital of United States of Alabama. See, it is a most populous city in Alabama. So, in all these places, Martin Luther King Jr., he organized several struggles, several rallies, and he delivered speeches in all these places. And in 1963, in Washington, Martin Luther King Jr. organized a March on Washington. It was held on Wednesday, August 28, 1963. In that March on Washington, Martin Luther King Jr., he delivered his famous speech. The title of the speech is I have a memorial. Sorry, I have a dream. I have a dream. So this was a very famous and popular speech of Martin Luther King Jr. It was a public speech delivered by Martin Luther King and American civil rights activities during the March on Washington for jobs and freedom of the black American Negro people on August 28, 1963. So, through that March on Washington, Martin Luther King Jr., he called for civil and economic rights of the black American Negro people. And he called the world to put an end to racism. He called the American leaders to put an end to racism in United States of America. So that speech was a very famous speech, and it was held. The speech was held in Lincoln Memorial. The Lincoln Memorial is a U.S. national memorial built to honor the 16th President of the United States of America, Abraham Lincoln. We have this Lincoln Memorial on the western end of the National Mall in Washington, D.C. The structure is in the form of a neoclassic temple. So, we have a memorial in the name of the American President Lincoln Memorial. In that place only, Martin Luther King Jr., he organized the rally. And his main purpose was to fight for the civil rights, jobs of the black American people, and also for the abolition of racism in the United States of America and also in the entire world. Students, now let us see what is the speech given by Martin Luther King Jr.? I have given the link. The link is given in the blue line. Please go through. Already I have given the link. By this time you might have read. Anyhow, I will also read the link that is given in your Google class already, and that is given now also. See, the speech is recorded in American Rhetoric. That means it is a volume containing top 100 speeches. So in that, we have a record of Martin Luther King Jr., who has delivered a speech on I Have a Dream in Washington, D.C. on August 1963, in the month of August 1963. So, you can see the photo of George Washington. If you go to the net, you can get a lot of information from the Wikipedia. I have given some information. All the informations are obtained by me from the net only, Wikipedia only. I tell you frankly. So you can also read. I don't have any books connected with the history of Martin Luther King Jr. See? Let me read the speech delivered by Martin Luther King Jr. I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation. Our nation refers to USA, United States of America. Martin Luther King Jr. is delivering the lecture in Washington, D.C., United States of America. 5 years ago, a great American in whose symbolic shadow we stand today signed the Emancipation Proclamation. This momentous decree came as a great beacon light of hope to millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro is still languished in the corners of American society and finds himself an exile in his own land. And so, we have come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we have come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, They were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check. A check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the bank of justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great walls of opportunity of this nation. And so, we have come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real promise of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to make real promise of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make injustice a reality for all of God's children. It would be fatal for the nation to overlook the urgency of the movement. This swithering summer of the Negroes' legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating atom of freedom and equality. 1963 is not an end, but a beginning. And those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. And there will be neither rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolt will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright day of justice emerges. But there is something that I must say to my people who stand on the warm threshold which leads into the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to a distress of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied up with our destiny. And they have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must take the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is the victim of the unspeakable horrors of police brutality. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways and the hotels of the cities. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger one. We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignity by signs stating, "For whites only." We cannot be satisfied as long as a Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and a Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied. And we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. So here I am showing the photograph where the Washington Memorial is clearly shown and the crowd that is gathered to listen to the speech of Martin Luther King Jr. Let me continue the speech. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trials and tribulations. Some of you have come fresh from narrow jail cells, and some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative suffering. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not allow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, and so even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live without the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day, even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering with the heat of injustice, sweltering with the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and justice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with its vicious racists, with its governor having his lips dripping with the words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope, and this is the faith that I go back to the south with. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountain of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. And this will be the day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with the new meaning. My country, 'tis of the sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing, land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride, from every mountain side let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. And so, let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghenies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slopes of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from the stone mountains of Georgia. Let freedom Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. So this is the photo in which Martin Luther King delivers his speech on I have a dream. See, he stretches both of his hands. You can see a few white leaders also standing by Martin Luther King Jr. And we can see many leaders of freedom, many leaders who fought for the liberation of the American Negroes, equality of the American Negroes. Let me continue the speech. I have a dream further. And when this happens, and when we allow freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. So with this, the speech ends, and let us go further. See, let us go to the PowerPoint. In this PowerPoint, I have given the link. You can also read. Now, after listening to the speech, you are supposed to observe the use of I and we. You can read the speech also. It is available in the textual matter. It is coming in the textual matter only. The speech is read by me only. So, you observe the use of I and we. How I and we are used by Martin Luther King Jr. in his speech, namely, I have a dream. From that, this is the exercise given to you. You have to make 2 lists of sentences. Already I told you to maintain a ruled notebook, some 80 pages or 100 pages notebook for your communicative English. In that notebook, you have to write. When you are coming to the college, you are supposed to reproduce, or when you are about to submit the assignments and seminars, in the end of the semester, for your internal marks, I will consider all those things. So, in your notebook, you record these. You have to prepare 2 lists of sentences. In the first list, you must have sentences where Martin Luther King uses the word I, pronoun I, personal pronoun I. So you must have a list of sentences where Martin Luther King Jr. uses I. And you must have another list of sentences in which Martin Luther King uses the pronoun we. Please remember, first you write the sentences in which Martin Luther King Jr. uses I, and another list of sentences in which Martin Luther King Jr. uses the pronoun we. And let us move to the second exercise. In this second exercise, you are supposed to express yourself. Here, you must read the story that is given below, and you must comment on the moral of the story. So, by giving your comments, you are expressing yourself. This is the exercise given. So, the title of the story is It Is Not My Job. I have given the link also in the Google class already. You can also read that one. The title of the story is It Is Not My Job. This is a story about 4 people named everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. So we have 4 peoples. Let us assume their name is everybody, somebody, anybody, and nobody. There was an important job to be done, and everybody was sure that somebody would do it. Anybody could have done it, but nobody did it. Somebody got angry about that because it was everybody's job. Everybody thought that anybody could do it, but nobody realized that everybody would not do it. In the end, everybody blamed somebody, and when nobody did what anybody could have done. So I have given you the link. Please go through the link. And from this story, you are supposed to express your comments. What is your comment on the moral story? So the story is about your responsibility of every individual in this world, as a father, as a mother, as a brother, as a son, as a daughter, as a teacher, as a employee, as a policeman, as a military serviceman, as a lawyer, as a doctor. So please go through the story, and you are requested to write your comment, give your comment on the moral, based on the moral of this story. The link is also given. Now let us go to the second aspect of this part, namely express yourself. See, we all know who is an egoist. Who is an egoist? Ego means it is the inner feeling of an individual, superior feeling. I will not go and ask that man because it hurts my ego. If you assume that you are superior to others, then you will not give up any matter easily. You will not speak to the people in a friendly manner. You will show arrogance. So, an egoist, if you listen to the words or if you listen to the speech of an egoist, then from his speech or from the sentences or the words that is coming out of an egoist, you can see or you can hear the use of pronoun I. Often, an egoist is using the word pronoun I, and the egoist is jokingly referred to as an I specialist, because he often uses the pronoun I. I will not do this. I don't like it. I have done this. I will do all these things. Only I can do this. So, an egoist always uses the pronoun I-centered, I specialist. So, an egoist boasts of himself. I am the topper in the class. I am the best man in the town. So, an egoist boasts about himself. So, I occurs frequently in his speech. The exercise is, you are supposed to write 5 sentences, and the sentences should have the tone of an egoist. So write 5 sentences which form the speech of an egoist. That is the second exercise given in your express yourself. With this, I conclude today's lecture. Complete the 3 exercises. The exercise number 1 is, you must go to the popular speech delivered by Martin Luther King Jr., I Have a Dream. From that, you must prepare 2 lists of sentences. First one is the sentences in which Martin Luther King Jr. uses the pronoun I, and another one is the list of sentences in which Martin Luther King uses the pronoun we. And you are requested to or expected to express yourself by reading the moral story. It is not my job. You are supposed to give the comment. And third exercise is, you are supposed to write 5 or more sentences just like the speech of an egoist. So complete these three exercises in this class. With this, I conclude the class for communicative English today. Thank you, dear students.